What I thought of doing was actually I worked on with a feature length with a feature structure in a way. So it's a very archetypical narrative, but the length is, it's the way I felt the story should be told, and it was a short film to begin with, so it kind of developed itself in a sort of a mixture of two. Of the length of a short film and the structure of a feature. I worked with a very good friend of mine who's also a director. He's an art director called João Rui Guerra da Mata. He does the art direction for the films of João Pedro Rodrigues. In this case, the art direction in the film, actually, we couldn't really touch the settings, so we worked on props and on small objects. It was the only thing that we could add to the image. So. The costumes were borrowed from theater companies, so they were not really. We went through the wardrobes, the costume warehouses of the theater companies to see what exactly what could we use and how we could match what we had at our disposition to create a sort of ensemble. I realized at a certain moment that the Cinderella story as we know it has a lot of political undertones and social undertones, and that in a way it made sense. It still makes sense in every new generation, in every new era, in a completely different point of view in a way, and we thought it was interesting to actually have that in a way put up to date, but not really up to date, because it should preserve a fairy tale side, and on the other hand, it was interesting to create a sort of a political and social analogy between the Portugal of this moment, of the last 3 years, and the Portugal of the second half of the 19th century, which is in a way very, very similar in a bad sense. I always think that when we see that first quote in the beginning of the film, that we tend to forget it when we see the film, while we're watching the film, and then at the end of the film, when we have finished watching the film, that it kind of, we remember the line in a sort of different way, I think. And I thought it was important to have in the beginning of the film, because in a way it drives the beginning in a certain direction, which is not exactly the direction that we're going to follow, and then in the end it makes sense by irony in a way.